If you're a federal employee in your 50s, there's a good chance you've already done this math in your head. If I just hang on until 62, my pension goes up 10%. But is that worth 5 more years? This is probably the single most common question I get, and almost every time the person asking has already found the rule that the 1.1% multiplier at 62 with 20 or more years. And they've decided the whole decision hangs on to that one number, and it doesn't. That rule is real, and I'm going to show you exactly what it's worth in dollars. But when we actually run this for a couple, the multiplier usually turns out to be the smallest piece of the decision. So today I want to walk you through a real one-pager, and this is a page pulled directly straight out of the Federal Retirement Readiness Roadmap that I build for clients. I've just swapped in clean round numbers so it's easy for you to follow. And by the end of the video, you'll know how to think about this for yourself so you can stop guessing about 57 versus 62 and see which one actually fits your life. So let's get into it. So how do you even know if 57 is on the table for you? Let me show you a simple example I use with a lot of federal employees. Here's our example. Age 57, 30 years of service, and the high 3 of $150,000 today. Now, a quick note on age 57. That's the minimum retirement age, or MRA, for anyone born in 1970 or later. If you were born before that, your MRA is a little earlier at 56 and some change. So go look yours up because everything downstream depends on this one number. At 57 with 30 years, you're eligible for an immediate unreduced retirement. No penalty, and you've earned the right to walk. That's going to be path A. Path B, stay 5 more years, retire at 62 with 35 years, and let the high 3 grow to about $165,000 along the way. Now, one thing I'm deliberately leaving out is the survivor benefit. If you elect a full survivor annuity, both of these numbers come down by 10%. And I'm leaving it out so the comparison stays clean, but in a real plan, we absolutely put it back in. And for a married couple, it's one of the most important decisions you can make. And I'll come back to that at the end of the video. The next question is, what do you actually get at 57 versus 62 in real dollars per month? Okay, so we have path A, retire at 57. 30 years times 1% is 30% of your high 3. 30% of $150,000 is $45,000 a year. That's $3,750 a month for the rest of your life. Path B is work to age 62. Now you've got 35 years. You're 62 or older on your separation date, so you get the 1.1% multiplier. 35 times 1.1 is 38.5%. Applied to a high 3 that's grown to 165,000. That's $63,525 a year or $5,294 a month. So the gap is $1,544 a month or about $18,500 a year. Every year for the rest of your life and for your spouse's life if you've elected survivor benefits. Now your eyes go straight to the bigger number, right? Mine do too. That's just how we're built. But I want to say this clearly because it shapes everything that comes after. A bigger pension and a better decision are two different things. Nothing on this page is telling you which side to pick. It's telling you what each side costs. So let's keep going because this is where it gets pretty interesting. Most people think that entire 18,000 gap is the 1.1% rule, and it isn't. Here's what almost everybody misses. There are 3 separate forces working here to get to that 18,000 number, and I've separated them out for you. The first one is 5 more years of service. You went from 30% of your high 3 to 35%. It's the same multiplier, same salary. It's just more years of service, and that alone is worth $7,500 a year. Now, the second one is the multiplier, right? This is the bump. Now we apply 1.1% instead of 1%, and that's worth $5,250 a year. 3 is having a higher high 3. 5 more years of raises took you from $150,000 to $165,000, and that's worth another $5,775. If we add those up, you get $18,525. So look at what that means. The famous 10% bump, the thing everybody builds this entire decision around, is about 28% of the difference, less than a third. The other 72% is just time. That's more years of service and a bigger salary base, which means if you're weighing 57 versus 60 or 57 versus 59, you still capture a big chunk of the benefit without going all the way to age 62. So this isn't a yes or no switch at 62. It's more like a dial you can turn at 58, 59, or 60 based on your life. Now, the biggest surprise in this decision isn't the pension math at 57. It's what happens at 62. If you retire at 57 with 30 years, you qualify for something called the FERS Retiree Annuity Supplement, or a lot of folks call it the Special Retirement Supplement, or just the supplement. And it's designed to approximate the Social Security you've earned during your federal career, and it bridges you from retirement to age 62. Now, in our example, that's roughly $1,800 a month. So look at the top row here. From 57 to 62, you're not living on $3,750. You're living on about $5,550 a month. And people see that and think, oh, that's basically the same as what I'd get at 62 anyway. So why should I wait? Well, because on your 62nd birthday, the supplement stops. And OPM is very clear about this. It ends at 62 whether or not you file for Social Security. So if you are planning to delay Social Security to 67 or 70 for the bigger check, and there are very good reasons to do that, you've got a 5 to 8 year stretch where you're living on $3,750 and not $5,550. So here's two more things about that supplement that can catch people off guard. It has an earnings test. So if you go get a job after you retire, that supplement gets cut by $1 for every $2 you earn over the Social Security limit, which is $24,480 in 2026. So if you had a plan to retire at 57 and still go do some work or some consulting for an extra 20 or 30 grand or more, that plan needs a second look. That extra income won't affect your basic first pension, but the supplement can go to zero if you make too much money. And by the way, the money that counts against the FERS supplement is only earned income. So TSP withdrawals don't count, Roth conversions don't count, pension income doesn't count as well. So you can pull from your TSP all day long and it will not touch your supplement. The supplement also gets no COLA, so there's no cost of living adjustment. And when you do this, your pension doesn't get inflation adjustment either. A regular FERS retiree under age 62 does not get cost of living adjustments. So that $3,750 is frozen until you turn age 62. That's 5 years of inflation with no raises. And nobody sends you a letter about this. If you retire at 62, you're eligible for COLA right away. Now, I've just given you 4 reasons the 57 path is harder than it looks. So let me be just as honest in the other direction, because I don't want you walking away thinking taking the supplement at 57 is a big mistake, because it isn't. So let's look at what that drop at 62 actually is. It's $1,800 a month or $21,600 a year. If you've got $900,000 in your TSP, covering that gap is about 2.5% withdrawal rate. So that's not a stretch to take care of and can be very manageable. So for a lot of the couples I sit with, especially 2-income households or folks with large TSP balances and they have some outside assets, retiring at 57 works just fine. You take the supplement to 62, you bridge the gap from the TSP for a few years, COLA kicks in on the pension at age 62, and then you decide on your own timeline when Social Security should kick on. And notice what you just did there. Those bridge years, when you're pulling from the TSP and your taxable income is low, that's the window. That's when Roth conversions are cheapest, right? That's the most control over your tax bill you will ever have again. So the supplement ending at 62 isn't a reason to avoid retiring at age 57. It's a reason to know exactly what your cash flow looks like before you file. That's where the actual decision is made rather than focusing on just the multiplier. If you only remember 4 rules about 57 versus 62, let it be these. The multiplier is locked in the day you separate. And this one really matters. You get 1.1% only if you are 62 or older on your retirement date with 20 plus years. Retiring at 57 and then turning 62 5 years later does not upgrade you to then get the 10% bonus. It's fixed at your separation date. I get asked that constantly, and unfortunately, the answer is no. FEHB is usually not the deciding factor here either. People tell me all the time they're staying to 62 for the health insurance. Well, here's the actual rule. You need to be enrolled in FEHB for the 5 years right before you retire or since you were first eligible. And you need to be leaving on an immediate annuity. At 57 with 30 years, you've almost certainly cleared that bar already. So just verify it with your benefits office and don't assume. And don't stay 5 extra years for a rule that you already met. The break even is around age 80. 5 years of collecting $5,550 a month is a $333,000 head start. At $1,544 a month more, Path B needs about 18 years to catch up, so somewhere around age 80. Now, I want to be very careful here because you can't solely rely on the break-even math because that number completely ignores the roughly $800,000 in salary you'd earn in Path B. If you only care about total lifetime dollars, working longer will always win, and it isn't even close. The break-even on the pension is useful for understanding the shape of the trade-off, but it's not the entire answer. And the pension usually isn't what decides this anyway. For most of the households I sit with, the TSP is the bigger number. 5 more years of contributions, 5 more years of getting the match, 5 more years of growth, and more importantly, 5 more years of not withdrawing. That swings a retirement plan much more than $1,544 a month of pension does. Here's where this gets pretty real. No matter what you choose, you're giving something up. Retire at 57 and you give up $1,544 a month permanently, about $800,000 in salary, 5 years of TSP contributions and getting the match, and COLA protection between 57 and 62. Work to age 62 and you give up 5 more years in a job you may already be finished with. You give up the earliest, healthiest years of retirement, right? That's the ones where you can still take the trips and do the fun things that you want to do. Maybe you give up overlap with a spouse who's retiring on a different timeline, and you give up 5 years of low income Roth conversion room before Social Security starts and before required distributions kick in, which for most of you watching is going to be age 75 if you were born in 1960 or later. Now, this last point is worth its own video, but the short version is the gap years between when you stop working and when the income sources switch on are the cheapest years you will ever have to move money out of your traditional TSP. Retire at 62 and you're earning $170,000 right up until the day you leave, leaving you no room to do any of it. So how do you actually decide between 57 and 62? I boil it down to 4 questions. The first one is, does the plan work at 57? If your TSP, your pension, and your other income can support the life you want, then the bigger pension is a preference, it's not a requirement. And the specific test is, does it still work after the supplement stops at age 62? And if the answer is yes, you have a lot more freedom than you think you do. Second is, what is the money for? More income you never spend isn't a win, in my opinion. But getting your healthy years back to do the things you actually want to do, for a lot of people, that's going to be a win. But only you can price that. Third, what happens to the survivor? A large pension with a survivor election protects a spouse very differently than a larger TSP does. If you're married, this belongs at the center of your decision to make sure they're protected, especially if you are the breadwinner in your household. And fourth, is there a middle option? Remember, most of that $18,500 came from your service years and salary, not from the actual multiplier. Retiring at 58, 59, or 60 are all real options to consider. At 60 with 20 or more years, you're still eligible for an immediate unreduced pension, and you still get the supplement. Almost nobody considers the middle option, and it's often can be the best fit. So here's the thing I'd leave you with. Every number I showed you today came from 3 inputs: your high 3, your years of service, and your date. If you change those 3, everything will change. So the honest answer to should I retire at 57 or 62 is I don't know yet, and neither do you until you've seen your own version of this exact page, but built around your own numbers. So if you want to see what your numbers actually look like, your pension at each age, your supplement, what happens to your TSP under both paths, that's exactly what I do. Start with a Federal Retirement Blueprint call. It's free, it's a conversation, it's not a pitch, and you'll leave knowing more about your own situation than when you got on. When you click the link below the video, you'll pick a time on my calendar, answer a few simple questions, and then we'll walk through your own version of this page together on a Zoom call. So thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you in the next one.